Welcome to the new edition of Soil Connect Live. My name is Cliff Fetner, and I am the founder and CEO. And today we have another very special guest. We have David Broomhead, founder and CEO of Hounds. So David, welcome to Soil Connect. And why don't you tell us a little bit about you and Hounds?
First of all, can I just say it's an absolute pleasure to be on with the Dirt King, Cliff. I've heard so many great things, and really excited to talk to you about industry stuff today. But I really appreciate you having me on. My name's Dave Broomhead. I'm CEO founder of Hounds. I'm originally from Australia. I actually came up with the concept in Australia. My family has a contracting business back there, and it wasn't, it didn't really come to me overnight, but I was actually painting a house with my uncle. And then we went and grabbed a couple of beers after work. And it was then when I really saw that, holy hell, I saw how he was sourcing jobs, and it was through word of mouth at the bar, through his buddies. There was a notice board up there and things like that. And I thought, this was in 2014. I thought to myself, there needs to be a better way of how to do this. And I assumed that he was on LinkedIn. And I said, hey, Connie, why aren't you on LinkedIn? He's like, what the hell is LinkedIn? I was like, all right, so these boys aren't on LinkedIn. And then I kind of showed them what LinkedIn was. And then they're like, yeah, the concept makes sense, but, the content isn't for us. But, it would have to be more photo-based, the work that we do, to showcase our work and show it off and things like that, because that's how we communicate now. So I was like, okay, so it needs to kind of almost be like a blend of Instagram and LinkedIn to kind of come together. And they said we would use that. So that kind of kept me up for a couple of weeks. Long story short, I decided to kind of go all in on it. I thought it was a really big opportunity. I thought there was a big market opportunity to not only help my uncle, but to help millions of workers across Australia and also America. So I kind of like shut up shop in Australia and came to America to launch the product and the idea. And that was nearly 7 years ago now. So, Hounds has come a long way. Where we are today, people do call us like a LinkedIn of the trades. We have a free mobile application for the construction worker. Mainly, MEP guys, electricians, plumbers, HVAC. We have a lot of welders, carpenters, roofers and stuff on there as well. In every geo across America where they can go and showcase their work. Find work. We have a job platform on there. Talk about pay grades, talk about boots, tools, union, non-union, you name it. It's really kind of like replicating what goes on the job site in a digital platform. So it's really exciting. We've got a long way to go, Cliff. We want to basically deliver as much value as we can to the worker, whether it's getting them more money through jobs, getting them home safer by giving them safety content to watch and consume, giving them a tool marketplace to get cheaper tools. Our emphasis is really focused around the worker and bringing benefit to their lives. And
right.
Once we kind of do that, everything else should kind of like the whole ecosystem should, benefit from it and improve as well.
Yeah. So one thing you said that, really strikes home with me is there had to be a better way, right? And so that's kind of the story behind Soil Connect as well, is that I was struggling about how to get rid of some dirt that was left over on my site. And it was the middle of the winter here in New York. And the excavating contractor, he called everybody he knew. Hey, Cliff, I called everybody. Nobody needs it. Nobody wants it. And quite frankly, I don't know what to do with it. And I said, well, yeah, that's a really nice story, but get rid of it. And so that aha moment to me, David, was the same thing. There had to be a better way of doing this. And Soil Connect was born almost exactly at that point in time. And so that kind of really brings me to an interesting point between Soil Connect. We started the same exact year that you started in 2018.
Yeah.
That's one similarity, right? And then we both have marketplaces, right? I have a marketplace for dirt and aggregates. You have a marketplace for employers and employees, right? So there are a lot of very similar things between the two companies. And so let's just touch base on let's call it the pain point that we both have in populating our marketplace. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Cliff, like, you know, we launched those things in 2018, and you think of like how advanced, you know, different industries are and the technologies they have. Like, a lot of industries are into AI right now and have software up the wazoo, where construction is typically a late adopter in most cases, with technology and smartphones, and typically because they don't really use it as a tool, right? If you look at kind of the whole ecosystem from the bottom up, you know, it's very hard to replace the worker unless it's with kind of machinery, and a lot of that's coming in, but you know, that's going to have some pushback from unions and things like that. But it's very hard to change a physical person, like banging nails, doing framing, things like that, moving dirt, and then kind of scaling up. You know, there are some, like, you know, software and SaaS businesses in the kind of like sub and GC, then GC to real estate area that kind of happens in the office, and then that was always going to happen. But I think, like, when you're talking about the physical world, it's that, like, that's exactly right. Like, it's very hard to digitalize something that is materially like being moved by humans. So, I mean, for us, it was really about connecting people and giving the worker a community, you know, and a piece of utility that they could, you know, get, you know, value out of. I think that was the biggest hook for us, because it's like, I thought when I first saw the problem, like, someone has to have done this. It was 2014. It's like, Facebook's been around, you know, LinkedIn's been around since like 2002, I think. I assumed everyone was on that. And then once you kind of dig a bit deeper, you do realize that there were these kind of like vertical communities out there for doctors, for coders, and now for construction folks, because they communicate differently, they source jobs differently, different things like, you know, make them tick and interest them. So for us, it was about delivering the right content in that community, which kind of created a flywheel of, like, you know, a plumber likes coming to trade hounds and looking at plumbing work, but he also is looking at electrical work or tiling work because he does it on the weekend. So that whole kind of ecosystem in the community was really the value driver, and what no one had really kind of like thought about. A lot of people were attacking it from a jobs perspective, like, give us your resume, we'll get you a job. These guys don't have resumes, you know. They can't they can't really display their skills on an A4 piece of paper. It's through imagery and photos. Right. So that was kind of our biggest hook, and that was our biggest differentiator, was really looking at the worker and be like, how do they communicate? How do they behave? Let's replicate that and build them a community and grow from there. And that's what we've done, and so far so good. And now we really want to add that piece of utility. It's like, outside of like the social and professional aspect, like, what are other layers of utility can we layer on top of that to improve their lives? Whether it's timesheets, payroll, HR, getting a job, you know, safety content, building that kind of professional profile out. So that's their kind of digital profile and home they can go to and, you know, get jobs and things like that. So, you know, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't easy to start. That was actually kind of like V2 of the product. I did start with a marketplace, and I soon realized that everyone's trying to find the worker. You need to build a community for the worker first, and then kind of monetize it later.
Right. So, you know, similar issues here in populating a platform, right? If you don't have two people to communicate, then the user experience is not good, and then they churn, and then they don't come back. And so in the early days of Soil Connect, yes, I would get people interested and posting. I have dirt to get rid of. I need dirt. And then there was nobody to talk to. And I had to convince our early users and early adopters of our technology to stick with it. And slowly over the years, the population on our platform is growing and growing and growing. And so the user experience is good and very good in different parts of our country where we have more density. But overall, populating a platform is hard. But here also at Soil Connect, what we're doing here is our mission statement, David, is very simple: one-stop shopping for any and all your dirt needs. And so we started with our free marketplace, and that's dirt and different types of dirt and aggregates and recyclables. But now what we're doing to supplement our platform is we're now adding SaaS products. We have e-ticketing and contactless e-ticketing and quick tickets. And we just released, literally 2 weeks ago, first to market, patent pending, e-regulatory. So we will continue to solve problems for our users each and every day, and give them a reason to come to our platform. And that's kind of how we're attacking and solving the density issue with building marketplaces. So let's now segue into labor, right?
Yep.
Labor is the biggest problem that every business suffers with. Finding labor, making sure they're skilled, and that's a huge topic in every industry. But let's talk about our industry for the minute. So when you look at the workforce today, whether you're 18 years old or you're going to retire in the near future, let's touch on, and I'm sure you have these statistics about the average age of workers and what's going to happen as far as over time getting new labor into the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the biggest pain point in the industry for the last 10 years, right? Construction's been booming. Now the infrastructure bill out, it's going to be booming for the next 10 years. And the reality, I mean, there already is a shortage, right? There's, I think that the last statistic I saw from the Bureau of Labor Statistics was 1.4 million vacant construction jobs, and they forecast that to kind of 3x, so up to 4 million with the infrastructure bill over the next 5 years. And the reality is that there's a big drop-off coming, right? Because the baby boomers are going to be retiring soon. So, some numbers that I've seen, the average age of a plumber in Boston is 58.
Wow.
The average age of an electrician down in Florida is 50. So, the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a big drop off in the industry, and a lot of big, brain trust of that knowledge that usually is given to the apprentice on the job site is going to be falling off, which is going to accelerate the gap, right? So how do you feel that? Where do you get the bodies from? Where do you train these folks? The problem is it's really a branding issue about kids going into the trades, and has been for the last 30 years, right? It's an issue, especially in America. I've looked it around globally. You look at plumbers, electricians in Germany, they get paid really good money, and they're considered almost on the same tier as an engineer in terms of people in society really respect them, and they get paid really well. I think here for the last 30 years, the story's been, you got to go to college. Get ahead. You got to go to college. You got to get a marketing job. You got to get into banking to get ahead. And the reality is that's BS. You go into a 4-year college degree, you get 100, 200K in debt. You're already behind the 8 ball. It's a very competitive market, especially now. With technology disrupting so much of the market, there's less jobs out there. Where, like we said earlier, it's very hard to disrupt a physical human being doing a skilled trade. And the reality is, teachers, parents, the last 30 years have put them in college, which has forced a lot of people not to go into the trades. I think trades are looked down upon in America because of maybe the pay grade, or it's a status thing. But the branding and the imaging of the whole industry isn't great. And that really needs to change to get more kids into the trades. And that starts with, I think that starts in DC, that starts with teachers, it starts with parents. And there needs to be a massive initiative and undertaking, and maybe some incentives to drive more kids into the vocational schools. But that's going to take at least 5 to 10 years. It's going to be a lag with that, right, Cliff? So what can we do today? something that Australia did, my homeland back in the day, was we had a big mining boom in the 2000s. We just opened up our borders to immigrants. We got a lot of Irish folks in. We got a lot of Indians in just to doing manual stuff out in the mines. And that really did fill the big void. And the whole country should reap the benefits of that because, it's a rising tide. There's more money in the system. There's more jobs. These guys are getting paid. Yeah, it's not going into a local guy's pocket, but these guys are spending it locally. So it goes into the system. Hey, if people are whinging about us giving away to immigrants, go and pick up a hammer. Go and get a trade. Become an apprentice somewhere. So I think there is a real serious problem, and it's only going to get worse. And the government needs to get creative and be open about it and incentivize kids to get into the trades, but also really be thinking about opening it up to bringing more people into helping out and helping grow this country because the infrastructure bill is a huge undertaking, and there's just not enough bodies to get it done.
No, I hear you, and I agree. But when I start to think about what we are here in America, and labor and how to attract labor, isn't it a supply and demand dynamic? We live in a capitalist society here. Where is that pain point that the wage for a young person goes up, and so therefore they will now consider this trade instead of going to college, right? Do you see that supply demand dynamic coming into play with raising rates, hourly rates?
I think this generation is soft. They don't want to get their hands dirty. It's kids are getting paid really good money coming out of school. They're coming out of school basically with 2 years under their belt, working, doing vocational school and high school, coming out with no debt, making 50, 60 grand a year. That's good money. Yep. And the reality is after 5 years, they can go off and start their own business and be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think the entrepreneurial side of the trades also isn't really well represented. But I just think a lot of people just don't want to work hard these days and don't want to get their hands dirty. They want to go to, college is a pretty cushy and cruisy place in my opinion. And I mean, I went down that path and, I didn't really capitalize on it. I probably should have gone into the trades. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more, but I was just following the norm. So, but I think that there's going to be a tipping point where like I said, once these baby boomers start retiring, there's going to be such an overwhelming demand. Guys might get paid just as much as a software engineer. Yeah. Coming out of school. Because, you need bodies. You need people to do certain things. And especially in a household, if you're plumbing or your toilet's broken and you need a plumber, you'll pay 3x to come and get that fixed because it gets stinky and nasty in there. Or if, your circuit's blown and you need an electrician to come around, you need power in your house, you'll pay 2 to 3x if there's no supply out there. And I think that once that money gets real, I think it's going to attract more people into the industry. But it's interesting, Cliff, because I'll be interested to see who it drags in because I think there is a big separation between the white and blue collar world in America versus Europe and Australia.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Australian, workforce marketplace for me to comment on that. But supply demand dynamics, we talk about that all the time here at Soil Connect and how the price of dirt goes up and down depending upon supply availability and demand, right? And I kind of see that dynamic as the baby boomers retire and we the workforce, we need labor. I also see another really interesting trend over the years is that women in the construction fields are now really getting serious traction on, getting involved. What do you see on Trade Hounds as far as women entering your marketplace?
So, in my opinion, there needs to be more. I'd love to see more females in the industry. It's a tough one because there's a big argument to kind of try and get more female into the trades, but some of these jobs, these guys are building a 3-story house next door. It's
Mm-hmm.
100 degrees outside. There's a guy on a ladder right now with a nail gun with direct sunlight on him. Like, not many people want to do that job. Like, let's be honest. And, some of these jobs are very tough and physically demanding. It's like most men don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reality in some parts. But, I think females are a lot smarter in like the engineering field than a lot of men because there's a lot of macho bullshit that goes in the industry. I'd love to see them in a lot more of the engineering type roles. I like to see them in a lot of the earth moving type roles in your world. I think like driving those big dozers and stuff like that would be really cool. On Trade Hounds, we have more and more women posting, which is great. They're posting their work. They get a lot of they probably get the most interaction and traction out of anyone else that posts because there's just such a great amount of respect and support.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, it is tough, and a lot of people don't want to roll up their sleeves and do it. And it's great to see more and more females out there doing it. So there is a massive amount of support for it in the industry, which is great, Cliff.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see more of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree. It's a long time due. So
there is a massive amount of support for it in the industry, which is great, Cliff.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see more of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree. It's a long time due. So David, I think I think changing gears here just a little bit. Why don't you tell us about start again? Changing gears here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Trade Hounds in the future, and where you ultimately see yourself, and yeah, let me hear.
Yeah, there's it's interesting in our worlds, right? Where we're VC backed, we have investors. So we basically, not that we're under a lot of pressure, but that they want to get a return on their investment.
Yep.
And for us, it's like, how do we do that? Like, we got to get users, we got to monetize the community, and then there's a marketplace that's two-sided. So which one do we focus on? Things like that. It's a lot of competing interests. For us, at our core, we always go back to, does this add value to the worker?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing where, and on the side of that, we're a technology company, so we want to be entrepreneurial, we want to be creative. So, and creative in the construction industry, there's very limited space for that to happen. So, there's a couple of ideas that we're working on right now that we are very passionate about, and one of them is something we call the digital wallet, which when you join Trade Hounds, you get a profile, you can add photos, you tell us. Post your work photos, what trade you're in, if you're in a union. You can kind of build out that professional profile. This is kind of like a second version of that where you can upload all your safety certificates, other certifications, your licenses, and keep it in a very safe place. So this helps you find future jobs. This helps you with onboarding when you go to job sites, which you have to do GC orientation and safety orientation every time. It's a big pain point because a lot of these guys and girls lose all these cards. There's liability issues on the GC and sub side. Mm-hmm. So again, we're kind of digitalizing that process.
Mm-hmm.
How we do that is in the secret sauce, right?
Right.
Again, trying to get a lot of these guys lose their wallets multiple times a year, so that's the challenging part. Yeah, that's one concept that we're really passionate about and fired up about. It solves a lot of pain points across the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. There's a tool marketplace idea that we have. Secondhand tools is a big industry. Mm-hmm. A lot of this stuff's on Craigslist and eBay. Why shouldn't we do it on Trade Hounds? Mm-hmm. Again, it's how do we add value to the worker,
right?
And how do we kind of pull in all these other kind of whether they're efficient or not, other kind of businesses or ideas that really could fit in well, and again, bring more users in, build a very robust community, and to help grow that community itself and make it sticky for the worker.
Yeah, and we're doing the same thing here, right? How do we add value to our users? And that's what it's all about. by creating our, different modules and our different features. We're adding value to our users, our dirt users, each and every day. And on our roadmap, David, we have lots of very, very interesting new features and new modules that we will continue to release over the next few months. And our roadmap is aggressive, David.
Yeah.
And that excuse me. And that ties directly into your point about, yes, we are also VC backed. And that kind of ties us where we first started, about how many similarities between Trade Hounds and Soil Connect. We both finished our seed round, 6 months, 9 months ago. We both have a very similar size team behind us. And yes, we are now generating revenue, and we will need to continue to generate revenue for our investors as we continue to grow and grow and grow. And so I think this is a great point for us to kind of, conclude. And once again, I want to thank you for your time. And this was great. You to the entire Soil Connect team working hard each and every day. And a special thank you to our executive producer today, Teresa. And it's a wrap.
Thanks, Cliff. Thanks, Teresa.